Welcome, my name is Al Getler and I am your host for Leader Be Led. Leader Be Led is dedicated to leaders of the marketplace, leaders of people, leaders in social media, leaders in technology, all types of leaders. And part of our mission, part of our dedication is to bring leaders new ideas and new concepts. Now, leaders are often tagged with the responsibility of change in their organization. Change in organizations mean changes of people, and oftentimes changes of people take time, resources, and energy. You have to take all those processes and capture them. Oftentimes you do it in an employee manual, a procedures manual, and that gets printed a couple of times a year maybe, and you have to change pages, and man, it really is an expensive mess. There are also times when you have to follow the regulations of government agencies. You have to follow processes. You have to do things to allow you to be licensed and allow you to do business. So all the stuff has to be captured. You end up with those 7-8-inch binders, and boy, I'll tell you what, it can take up a lot of shelf space. Well, now there's something new in the marketplace, something web-based, and it's called SweetProcess. It allows you to capture all this information and put it in an easy-to-follow instruction book that's all online. I want to introduce to you one of the principals, one of the founders of SweetProcess. His name is Owen McGab Enaohwo. I think I got that right. Owen's going to tell me, but let's bring Owen up on the screen and say hello. Hi, Owen.
Hey, how you doing, Al?
How did I do on your pronunciation of your name?
Well, let me correct you. It's Owen McGab Enaohwo, but that
Did
was
I say
close.
McNabb? I'm sorry. Well, look, I need a SweetProcess to help me pronounce your name. That's probably what it boils down to. So anyway, Owen, it's really a pleasure to have you on the show, and I've been fooling around with this software. It's pretty ingenious. It's really something that's going to help a lot of folks organize. Tell us a bit about SweetProcess.
So SweetProcess is trying to solve the problem of systemization. There are a lot of tasks that in your business you can automate and basically make use of machines to handle those tasks. But there are a lot of other tasks on the other spectrum where you cannot necessarily automate. And in those cases, you have to make use of people. It could be your employees, your virtual assistants, or even your teammates, whatever, or contractors. But what you want to do is make sure that for those tasks that you have to use a human being to handle, you want to make sure that they know exactly how to get stuff done and deliver the results that you want to your customers. And so SweetProcess is trying to solve that problem of systemization. And real quick, what I want to explain is there are basically two types of people that will find value from SweetProcess. The first person, which we named Sally, we gave her a name. Sally basically is someone who has realized that in their business, they no longer can be the bottleneck, the only one that knows how everything gets done.
Sure.
And they need to document step by step how to get the task done. And so SweetProcess is ideal for such a person. And on the other spectrum is Jane, who is already documenting procedures on how stuff gets done in their business. But what they realize is that the tools they're using are too complex, and their teammates don't like the tool. So they want something easier that will still get the job done. And Jane, SweetProcess will be good for Jane as well.
Well, you have a nice video on your website that really gives a great overview of what SweetProcess does. So maybe we can take some time now and take a look at that video and then come back and talk a bit more about SweetProcess. So Lou, can we show the video?
You've been there. You keep spending valuable time on those repetitive tasks in your business, and you think to yourself, someone on my team could handle this if only I showed them exactly how I do it. Or maybe you've brought on a new team member, but they can't get up to speed quickly enough because you never got your processes out of your head and documented. The problem is that you've become the bottleneck in your business. Your employees can't get tasks done without you, which means you can't focus on growing your team and scaling your business. Well, now you can, thanks to SweetProcess. SweetProcess is your centralized place for all of your procedures documenting those repetitive tasks that make your business run. Let's meet Jane. Jane manages a team of 6. Her standard operating procedures were rarely kept up to date and difficult for her team to follow. She needed to reduce mistakes and avoid setbacks when training new employees. Luckily, Jane found SweetProcess, and her business hasn't been the same since. Today, Jane creates and updates procedures in a snap, and her employees love using them. When it's time to systemize and delegate a task in her business, Jane uses SweetProcess to create a procedure, add some steps, and make it visual by adding screenshots and embedding videos. She can even track her employees' progress as they follow each step in the procedures that she shares with them. Every procedure in SweetProcess can be accessed from any computer, smartphone, or tablet. So whether Jane's team is in the office, working remotely, or out in the field, they'll never miss a step. Thanks to SweetProcess, Jane has systemized her entire business. Every standard operating procedure is documented. Training new employees has never been easier. She has tripled the monetary value of her business in the eyes of potential buyers. And best of all, now her business runs on autopilot. Finally, Jane can take that vacation she's been dreaming about, confident without a single doubt that her team can get tasks done without her. Whether you're just starting to document those repetitive tasks in your business, or you're seeking an easier way to do so, SweetProcess is your answer. Start your free 14-day trial by clicking below.
So Owen, that says it all pretty nice and neatly, that this is a tool that really can change an awful lot about the way people do business. When you first designed this with your founders, who did you have in mind? What was the marketplace, the market, even the profession you were after when you invented SweetProcess?
And that's a great question. So in terms of a specific industry that we had in mind, one of the things we run into when you have apps is that as you build the product and as it becomes more, you have build more features into it, then you can definitely target to a specific industry, like a specific profession, right? But right now, what we are focusing on is based on the need, the potential customers, based on the avatar, meaning that if the person is just starting out and they don't have a means to, they're basically the bottleneck in their business and they want to be able to document how stuff gets done, then that person will find value. But then on the other side, if someone is already documenting tasks and they want to be able to get it done a much easier way with say for instance, they're using like paper binders or something complex like an enterprise tool, and they want something that is easy to use, easy to understand, and their employees can use, then SweetProcess will be a right fit for that. So we focus based on the pain point of the person, not necessarily on the industry yet. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. So why is it important for businesses to capture processes, and keep them in a place like SweetProcess where they're always accessible?
Well, there's several reasons, but two that come to mind is basically if you were handling a task, let's say, quite often, and you have as the entrepreneur the tasks that those tasks that basically generate income for your business, but then on the other side there's a bunch of all these administrative back office tasks that needs to get done. But if you always happen to handle them yourself, it's taking away your time from the valuable time that you should be focusing on those visionary tasks that help to drive the business. So by documenting this stuff so that someone else on your team can handle, you make more free time to focus on the important stuff. And that's one part of it. But the other part is, they always say start with the end in mind. So if your goal is to end up selling your business at the end of the day, one of the things that we found that buyers of businesses will love to see is that, okay, if we buy this business and take over from this business, is this something that this business only depends on this person?
Right.
But now with procedures, you make your business more valuable because they know without you being in the picture, everything gets done the same way because of the procedure. So more value if you ever want to sell your business.
Right. It's kind of like that family recipe that's been around for generations, but no one writes it down. Well, now someone finally writes down the recipe of what makes a business grow, what makes a business, the procedures of a business so that the owner can make the business grow, but captures that recipe for the day in, day out things that need to be captured. Tell me how you would use SweetProcess for a new employee of a company.
So for a new employee of the company, it's basically, what tasks are the employee going to come into and handle? And I'm assuming now that if you're, say for instance, you're starting out and now you're trying to delegate work to someone who you're bringing into the team. So I'm assuming the person we're talking to is basically the one handling the task themselves. And the secret that I've been telling everybody is don't try to delegate, don't try to document everything at once. The secret is basically look at what is the bottleneck of your time right now. What is the task that happens on a recurring basis that takes the most of your time? Start by documenting that task using a tool like SweetProcess. And then once you fully documented that task, because that is the bottleneck, you can now delegate that task to your teammate. And then with the free time you have as a result of delegating the bottleneck, you can go in and figure out, okay, how do you go ahead and document the next bottleneck. And so over time, you're going to be documenting more and more and more of the bottlenecks. And each step after documenting is delegating a task to the person. So to me, that's the best way to get started with SweetProcess. And if you have a task where you're trying to bring on a new employee, what is that task that you know for that new employee will be the task that they need to get started with right away.
Right.
And
right.
if you start by documenting that task, then it's easier for that person to at least get started, and they can see how the work is done and get started doing the work. And then, okay, what is the next task that is very important for that employee to handle? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you use the D word for me, which is delegation. I love delegation because delegation goes with another D word, development. If I delegate to you and you're my employee, you now are learning something new, you gain confidence in an area, and you become much more proficient at your job. When you've done that, I can now delegate more and more and more to you. And as the manager or the leader of the organization, it gives me more time to do the things that help grow my department or grow my company or grow my nonprofit organization by having you have that task delegated to you. So with SweetProcess, say you want to delegate to me something that you do on a daily basis. You make up the list, and what happens? You mail that to me, and is there a way to track that I've actually followed those processes?
So what happens now is that you document the procedures. So it's a procedure name, but you see the procedure, you click on it, and in each of the procedures are steps that you need to get done. And in each of those steps, you see descriptions in terms of text as to what exactly you need to do. Pictures to make basically screenshots to basically make it clearer. Even you can embed videos to each step. Basically, if there is a demonstration of how to use a specific application for that task, now you have video. So what we try and do is we try to appeal to all styles of learning, but you break it down into steps that the person can basically use the procedure to get it done. And in regards to being able to track how the work gets done, whether they're following the step, one of the things we have for each step is a checklist. So as the person is handling the task, they go ahead and click off a checklist and say, oh, that's done. And then let's say they have a procedure that has 5 steps in it, and they are done with all the 5 steps. By the mere fact of handling the task, they're checking off each task. And when they're done, it's essentially finished. So they know they followed the procedure for getting that task done.
So when they check off that task, do I know as the delegator that they've completed that task?
That's the goal, is that when you as the person delegates that task to them, you know that they follow the step, because the goal is to track the activity behind how they use the procedure. And one thing that we want to also make sure that we put across to listeners is that procedures are meant to be living, breathing documents. So as the person is using the procedure to handle your work, the goal is to empower them to say, okay, do you find out that out of these 5 steps is a much better way of doing things? The goal is to get them to, as they do the work, give feedback and let you know, as the one who created the procedure, hey, this very step, I just discovered that instead of 5 steps, I can do it in 3 steps. Here's why. And then you now can go back and revamp it so that now the document becomes more efficient. And so the idea behind procedures is you start with procedures to have a base point where your teammates can get started, but empower them to be able to take it to the next level and say, I give you the power to improve it. And one of the things you could do is you can incentivize it, turn it into a game. If you find a better way of doing things, let me know. And who knows, you can incentivize them by giving them, bonuses or whatever. But some people might not be even inspired by that. They just want to feel like they're part of this, building this business, and they want to take ownership.
Right. No, that's great. Now I noticed on your website, very bottom of the page, it's sweetprocess.com, right? I noticed at the bottom of the webpage you have a sweet process for creating a podcast, which I can't begin to tell you. To me, I was looking at it last night, is so helpful because we've kind of backed our way into this with Leader Be Led. We have people now asking us to take our audio from the show and turn that into a podcast. And so I looked at it last night. I mean, you have everything possible on there. You have screenshots. You have some other files that are helpful. And you just mentioned now you can even embed video in the process. So this can replace an awful lot of ways that people go about teaching other people how to do things through procedures and process. It's a pretty amazing thing. Tell us about you and your partners. Where did you guys come up with this concept?
So the idea, maybe I should give some backstory. We all have different, we all approach the same pain. We all had the same pain of, okay, how do we document stuff? Or we all have individual companies. And so Jervis, my technical co-founder, he basically is a programmer, and he has a programming shop in Australia where he does work for programming related type of work. And he always had this issue of, okay, how do we document how we do work as programmers so that we always deliver the same quality of value to our customers. And then on the other side, we have my design co-founder, Brian, who has a design shop, basically a marketing agency that does design for their customers. And he also had that same issue because he had to hire a bunch of freelancers and all those people who are helping him to provide value for his customers. So how does he streamline what they do so that it's always the same and it's predictable? And then me, I have on the side a virtual assistant agency where I provide entrepreneurs with virtual assistants. And what we realized is that in order to deliver value, the same constant amount of results to our customers, we had to document how they currently handle work themselves. And basically, I was hacking, from my own perspective, I was hacking together different tools. And I said, why isn't there a tool that basically does it so simply and so easily that basically entrepreneurs can document how they do their work? So I had that problem. I put it down on my notes, say I will attend to it when I have the time to do it. And I did an interview on Andrew Warner's show called Mixergy. And so I talked about outsourcing and all that. And then my technical co-founder, Jervis, all the way from Australia, reached out to me and said, hey, he's working on this new tool idea that he wants to work on. And he wants, since I'm, someone who talks about outsourcing a lot, I should check out the tool and see if it makes sense. And I say, guess what? I've been wanting to build this tool myself. I don't want to just give you advice. I want to come in and together we build this tool together and take, basically you get my input as, my own experience on this, and we put your own input and we basically work on it together. And so we started the process of reaching out to prospective users to discover, okay, we have the idea of what we're trying to do, but we want to define it based on pain, because if we know a pain that people are having with systemization and we actually build a tool based on pain to solve that pain, it becomes a tool that when someone uses, because we are solving the pain, they will actually find value from. So we started making calls to different entrepreneurs out there who were talking about systemization and people who we thought would have issues with systemization. And as a process of just making those calls, someone introduced me to Brian, who's the design co-founder. And I said, and he also had that same issue. I said, you know what? Instead of you just being on the side working on this, why don't you join us?
Right.
Three heads combined together. We all have the same problem from different angles. Three heads come together to solve this problem. We'll be able to deliver a solution that's very easy to use. And that's the story.
So your programmer's in Australia. Brian is where?
Brian is in Connecticut.
Brian's in Connecticut. You're down lower East Coast. You guys are working all this together virtually, and you've come up with an absolutely great tool. So let me ask you a question now. If I'm a viewer today watching this, how do I get a little bit of that sweetness from SweetProcess? Can I try it out?
Oh, yeah. And one of the things we try and do is, hey, we said, no need for a credit card. Just come on and sign up for a free 14-day trial and establish value by using it. See if it's something that you really have value by using it. And this is the thing you're going to ask yourself. Are you Sally, basically one of the avatars that we have a name for her? Are you someone who basically have got to the point in your business where you're the bottleneck and you can no longer handle the recurring tasks? Well, do you need to document them so that someone else can handle? Well, SweetProcess is for you. Or are you Jane on the other end where you're already documenting procedures and you're using maybe complicated tools out there that are so advanced and you don't know how to use them, and you want a tool that is easy to use so that your teammates can make use of procedures? Well, SweetProcess is also for you. So if you are either of those two people I just described, then SweetProcess, you can check it out. You don't need a credit card. Use it during the free trial. And if you find value with it, then go ahead and become a paying user.
But your name could also be, George or Bob or Mary or Steve, too. It doesn't have to be Sally or Jane. All right, because, when you called me Sally, I had a flashback to football camp when I was in high school. So,
and let me explain
Coach
that.
used to call us that on a hot summer day, if we could slow down.
The reason why I call them by a name is because we are basing the whole thing based on the problem I'm trying to solve. And if I have a name and a picture behind who the person I'm trying to solve the problem for, it makes me more attached to that problem and the need to deliver it. So that's why we have a name for the different people we're trying to solve the problem.
And that's brilliant. We could do a whole show on personas and how I've invented some products in the past by doing exactly that. I think that's just brilliant. We could do a lot of shows on other things. You've mentioned a couple of times now you have a virtual executive assistant company. And I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to talk about that. Only if you promise to come back and talk a bit more about virtual assistants and how that works for leaders.
Definitely. We'd love to do that. So basically, the whole thing is, you can either hire employees, or you can go and do it virtually. And so we're trying to solve that problem for that person who's just starting out, and maybe they don't want to hire employees immediately. They want to hire a virtual assistant, and so we provide them with virtual assistant. And the website for that is hireyourvirtualassistant.com. And what we really do is basically say, okay, what is this task that you're doing on a recurring basis that's taking the most of your time? We always focus and start with the bottleneck, because if a specific task is taking up the most of your time, and we come in and understand how you are currently doing it yourself and then take over that task, now with that free time, you can easily figure out, okay, what's the next bottleneck to assign to your team? And so instead of trying to delegate everything to us at once, we focus on the bottleneck first and keep taking over work that is bottleneck after bottleneck. And before you know it, you have more free time to focus on what matters.
So Owen, you are solving all of our problems virtually, or virtually solving all of our problems, depending on how you look at it. And that's pretty amazing. So we'll have a slide here at the end of the show with all of your contact information on it and your websites. But I will give you the one website, SweetProcess.com, to try out SweetProcess, a 14-day trial. If you like it, Owen, what's the neighborhood of what it would cost a person to use SweetProcess from then on out?
Yeah, and we have 3 different plans based on, we're offering you different plans so that you can try it out. So the easiest plan to sign up for is the startup plan, which is $19 a month, and you get a certain amount of features available to you. And then if you feel like you need more advanced features or more access in terms of procedures that you can create, then, the next plan is the, what's it called? You have the business plan, which is $39 a month, and then the next plan after that is the agency plan, $99 a month. So we priced it so that it solves the pain, at the same time it's very affordable.
Yeah, excellent, very good. Well, Owen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here today, learning about SweetProcess, a brand new tool to help us organize our lives, and we'll have you back soon to talk about virtual executive assistants.
Thank you very much.
Oh, excellent, good deal. Well, that about wraps up our episode of Lead or Be Led. But, again, as Owen's talking, I'm coming up with so many ideas of the ways to use SweetProcess as a tool. And I'm very interested in what he has to say about virtual executive assistants, because life has changed dramatically. We're doing a lot of things very differently today, and that's why Lead or Be Led is there, right at the cutting edge, to help you as a leader be on top of the way to do business in kind of a non-traditional way. As Owen put it, you don't have to hire someone right out of the gate. You can contract services out. And that's one of the ways on Lead or Be Led. We'll bring you that information. So with that, my name is Al Gettler. I'm going to remind you to share this episode with your friends. Comment below. Tell us what you think about this episode, what your experiences are with Process, and how you record them. And we'll catch you again very, very soon for another episode of Lead or Be Led. Take care.